An unacceptable loss on the field, but was the loss off the field warranted? Do we blame this one on the conditions on the field or the conditions we have been saddled with for years? Either way, we play for pride as the Falcons come to town next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey Packers fans, this is your unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, and these are the podcasters you're looking for. One of these guys, even though he's a huge fan of the Packers, he doesn't like bratwursts and wonders if that's wrong. And the other guy bangs the drum all day and thinks, touchdown. And now it's time to go, Pack, go, with your hosts, Wayne Henderson and Troy Heinritz.
Brothers and sisters, we are gathered here together again, this time to mourn what could be the end of our 2018 playoff dreams, barring a miracle. Welcome. This is your Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. And it's episode 171, recorded December 4th, 2018. And me, I'm at Wayne Henderson, praying for a miracle of miracles.
And I'm at Troy Heinritz, spending the next 4 Sundays polishing my daggers so that I can sell them on eBay to pay for Christmas presents, since I probably won't need those anymore. Until next year, anyway. We'll go over that disgrace of a game against the Arizona Cardinals, and you'll get our reactions to the firing of McCarthy. There are many opinions afloat out there on the interwebs. We'd also talk about who we would like to see as the next coach up, and we'll have the latest in our NFC North roundup, and, of course, playoff scenarios. For some reason, we're still in. I don't get it.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. But we're not just here to talk about Mike McCarthy in the head coaching position for the next 45 minutes. We're also going to be previewing this weekend's Falcons versus Packers game at Lambeau Field, including Troy's keys to a win. And what rhymes with keys? It's please. So please, win, win, win. We also have the results from this week's Twitter and Facebook poll and your G-Force feedback from 9203-PACK-GO from email and the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community.
That's PackersCommunity.com. Be sure to go over there and get all the links or articles we reference for this episode over on our website. That's PackersFanPodcast.com/171.
Are there any actual highlights from our loss to the Cardinals?
Yes, that Josh Jones sack in the first quarter. Where the hell has that been all year? That was amazing.
It was waiting for this perfect game to make it happen. It was great to watch, that's for sure.
Safety blitzes, that's something out of the old, way back in the day.
I don't know what brought it on, if it was just opportunity, but I like it.
I like it a lot. I also like Devontae catching that miracle 4th down touchdown in the end zone, a little toe tapping on the sidelines, and then he toe taps again on that touchdown drive in the 4th quarter. So that was a lot of fun there, a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. When I watch it live, of course, when I'm also eating my French toast and whatever out at the sports bar.
That was an amazing breakfast, by the way.
Yes,
amazing.
It was very good. Liquid butter and syrup. Oh, yeah. But when I'm eating that and watching the game at the sports bar, it's, a little further away than at home. At live speed, it never looks like he's in. I'm like, there's no way that's inbounds. And then we see the slow-mo, the replay. I'm like, dang, he did it again.
Yeah, literally by a pencil.
Well, at least they didn't have to get out the piece of paper like that play last year.
Oh, that's true. That's true. You know what I also liked? Actually, Williams on the kickoff returns. I kind of like Williams doing that. That seemed like that was a good fit for him. He was churning up some yards, even though the first one that he took probably should have kneeled down, but that's okay.
I never know from one week to the next who we're going to put in on kickoff and punt returns.
That's why I was so complexed and confused when Jair Alexander is catching punts. Like, that is not a good thing. Do not put him out there. He is the entire defense right now, so you need to make sure he stays healthy. So no catchy punts for Jair Alexander, please.
Yeah, between Kenny Clark going up the middle and taking care of that part of the field and Jair Alexander taking care of the rest, you're right. That is pretty much our defense.
It was nice to see a little bit of trick actions going on out there. A couple reverses this time around. A little something fun for a change, kind of like that.
Okay.
And, of course, Kumaro is in the house. He gets his first catch there late in the fourth quarter. So good to see Kumaro out on the field. Hopefully that becomes a more regular thing down the road.
I was actually a lot more excited watching that catch than I should have been for the fact that the game just wasn't going our way. But I don't know. There's something just seemed energized about the whole thing.
Because it was a catch. Because the other problem we had from our lowlights from the game is all the drop passes. Equiminius had one. Scantling had one. Cobb had one. Cobb is back, by the way. And Adams had one. That's what they said. Hey, that's Cobb catching that ball. I was like, oh, I didn't know Randall suited up today. Okay, that sounds cool.
It's a nice surprise.
Plus, on that special teams, I mean, Josh Jones was getting it done on the sacks, of course, on defense. But that punt, I don't know if you watched it, but he comes off. He's kind of tied up with the guy, and he comes off to the right a little bit. And he just looks like he just watches it bounce rather than actually trying to make an effort on the ball. So you have to play aggressive, and I don't think Josh Jones was quite aggressive on that first punt in the first quarter.
Yep.
Other ones I kind of called out was the opening drive, the third and long from midfield. We run a draw play, head scratcher there. Not quite sure what that was about. Great way to kill our first opportunity to score, but whatevs. And then we had the poor tackle after Edmonds. I mean, Edmonds literally slips to the ground in the second quarter up there on the farthest away sideline, right? The visitor sideline. He slips to the ground, and then he gets up and just, how do we miss a tackle? He was on the ground. Just touch him. That one I can't scratch my head on that one.
I'm glad that you're able to call out a lot of these specifics as far as things that were lowlights, because my brain was just kind of in a fog because so much was going wrong, with, execution and focus and mistakes and just everything. So I appreciate you bringing the specifics.
Yeah, you mean like the run defense falling apart in the third quarter? I mean, if I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan, I am just thankful that Rosen fumbled that ball out of bounds because he's like, I'm free. I'm running for the end zone. Oh my gosh. Wait, I'm slipping. The ball's falling out. Fumble it forward, fumble it out of bounds, do whatever. I don't know what was going through his head, but that's kind of what I pictured was going through his head because he couldn't believe he was so wide open. We let the quarterback scramble for like 50 yards. It was crazy.
The rookie quarterback on a team that only had 2 victories until they came to Lambeau Field.
And did you see the run defense was actually looking pretty decent, first down, second down, and then Rosen has like 9 years to throw the ball on third down. I think they had 100% third down conversion for the most part in this game because I was like, every third down he's converting a pass. Like, what the hell's up with that?
Sounds like a next-gen stat they need to put up on the screen next week. Last week at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, the Cardinals were 100% on third down. No.
Well, you remember how we were kind of joking about 4th and 26 and bringing up those memories again?
Yes, thank you.
On our last episode. Well, how about 3rd and 23 to Fitzgerald in the fourth quarter with no challenge flag again? We had 3 timeouts this time. There was no excuse. Why do you not challenge the play?
Mind-boggling. Mind-boggling.
But before that, how do you even let him convert 3rd and 23? I mean, come on. Seriously. 3rd and 23.
Absolutely. That's when I was like, okay, I know it's only about noon here, but is it too early to ask for something from the bar? Because it was just, like we've talked about in seasons past, something about the bird teams. When we play the bird teams, shenanigans, okay? And
you just shut your mouth because we got another bird team this weekend.
I'm hoping that they change their moniker and they're going to be some sort of cat. I don't know. But it's like when we played the Cardinals in the playoffs a couple of years ago when I was there, and nobody bothered to cover Larry Fitzgerald in overtime and let them win the game. And then there's this.
Sounds familiar. Deja vu.
Ugh.
And then, of course, there was the nice big gain to Cobb that kept the drive alive. Oh, wait, sorry, there was a holding penalty. Wah, wah.
I'm so tired of those.
That just craw. Like, ugh. But we lost the game anyway, so it doesn't matter. All of that doesn't matter because we missed the final field goal after Rodgers valiantly brought us back within field goal range by just enough and then shanked it. It was funny because I wasn't actually watching the game. I actually watched all of the stuff that I pointed out on the NFL Game Pass condensed version over lunch today. That's how I was able to get some specifics.
Okay.
As I was taking notes as I went. But the only thing I caught from the game on Sunday specifically was the last play, and I literally watched it on the NFL. Like, it updates the screen for you, like you're getting the plays on the app because it wasn't on in TV in Chicago. And so it's like, oh, they're lining up for the field goal, and Mesa kicks it. And it was like, and it came across no good, and I went, and I laughed out loud because I'm like, this is the perfect example of our season. Like, how do you get to be back in the spot to win once again, or in this case, tie, and you botch the field goal? Like, it's like the Ty Montgomery thing. It's like the Jones fumble. It's the punt on 4th down, miss a field goal against Arizona. It's like one play makes the difference. I think that's the one play should be like T-shirts that we all get for this year.
And it should never come down to just one play, especially at Lambeau Field. It's just not supposed to happen. And the interesting thing about watching the game at Jake's was the fact that, okay, I had the Packers game straight on because I had my jersey on. They see us there all the time. They know Packers. That's what we're watching. But the TV just to the left was on the Bears game, and for whatever reason, they were letting the Giants beat them. And then the next TV over had Lions, I think it was Patriots, and the Lions almost beat the Patriots, but didn't. And so I'm watching all this going, oh, how is this playing into the mathematical provisions of possible playoffs? But it was just crazy day, and I know you've got some NFC North notes that are going to touch on the whole NFC North. Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's a little woeful right now, which means there might actually be hope for the Packers. Who knows? Because we're at that point in the Packers fan podcast history that we have never been before. That's right. The big news coming out of Sunday was that Mike McCarthy was fired as the coach of the Green Bay Packers. Now, I have to apologize to some Packer Nation because there's people out there that obviously think that this was a dirty move, an insulting move because he was let go in the middle of the season. It sounds like it's something the Bears would do or the Browns would do, is kind of the things I was seeing all over Twitter and Facebook. Before the game even started, I leaned over to a buddy of mine at church and I said, if they lose this game today, they better walk McCarthy out the door. So I'll take some responsibility for getting him fired mid-season because I did say that to my friend, and he literally texted me. He's like, whoa, how did you call that?
Oh, my goodness. The fact that it didn't happen the next day, like on a Monday morning during a press conference or something like that, the fact it happened just, 90 minutes after the game was pretty surprising.
It was. So I'm going to yield the floor. I've been talking for a while. I'm going to yield the floor to you. Thoughts on Mike overall, thoughts on the firing, thoughts on what happens next. What say you, Mr. Henderson?
Well, first, let me preface it by saying we've got a lot of good stuff about the whole head coaching situation coming up early in the listener feedback tied to our Twitter poll results. Spoilers. But basically, aside from the fact that I was shocked that it happened Sunday night, just 90 minutes after watching the game, that was a bit of a surprise. I just had a feeling that once we lost that game, that his job was in jeopardy and it'd probably be fired, what is it called? Black Monday, right after the season or something like that. But I did not think it was going to happen right after the game. But, we all know that we appreciate everything he's done for the team. We got the Super Bowl victory, tons of playoff wins and playoff appearances, but it's just kind of grown stale after this much time. Everybody seems to know what we're going to do. And allegedly, Aaron Rodgers has been caught rolling his eyes when he gets some of the play calls. I thought it was just us at home that did that. And it was just time. And we appreciate everything that Mike's done for the team. He's not going to be unemployed for long. Firing somebody's never cool and it's never nice, but he is going to land on his feet, I think, probably with the Cleveland Browns very, very soon. And we'll probably see him take the Browns to the playoffs next season. So he's going to be just fine. It just happened so quickly that all of a sudden everything in Packer Nation, it almost makes us forget about that terrible game and the loss because of everything that's happened since then.
Do you think it was the right decision to do at the right time? Do you think McCarthy deserved better? Do you think he deserved to play out the rest of the season?
I don't necessarily think it's quote unquote the right thing or that he deserved to have played out the season. I just think that for cohesiveness, I think would have been the best route to go, because I think even McCarthy knew his days were numbered. But for consistency's sake, he could stay with the team, even if he's just more of a figurehead the last 4 games of the year while they get things worked out behind the scenes instead of it being so public. Because the fact we lost that game to the Cardinals and then he gets fired shortly after the game, I mean, on one hand, it's great the Packers are in the news a lot, but, now everybody's talking about this. This is not a type of move I would expect the Packers to make. And so I know all the good reasons why it happened and why not just rip the Band-Aid off, but it just seems like it's something that could have waited till the end of the season, even though that would mean he'd be with the Packers, through the holidays and have to deal with that. He knew he was gone, so I don't think it was a surprise to him. It's just strange that now we've got these final 4 games and we're scrambling, he's scrambling, everybody's scrambling, don't know what's going to happen next. It's just so up in the air, and I don't like the uncertainty.
I mean, it is something different, but I mean, when people are like, well, that's not the thing the Packers would do, let me tell you, we've done the things the Packers would do for a long time. We didn't get rid of Dom Capers. We're going to let him just kind of ride it out and see how he does, because maybe it's not Dom Capers. Maybe it's just personnel. We're going to let Ted Thompson ride it out and see what's going on. And we're not going to get rid of Ted Thompson because he wants to draft and develop instead of do free agency. I think the front office got super complacent over the last 6 years, especially once we were, whatever it was, 3 minutes away from a Super Bowl in 2014. I think that was kind of the downfall there after that Seattle debacle. That was kind of the downfall of the McCarthy-Thompson era at that point. And even though we did get back there in 2016, it was a Herculean effort to do so. And it really wasn't as prolific as we thought, because we got our asses handed to us in that Atlanta game in the NFC Championship. At the same time, I'm super, super thankful for everything that McCarthy brought to the Packers. I mean, the man deserves respect, 3rd longest running coach, 2nd most winningest coach, I believe it was, if I saw correctly. He's got, the street named after him there in town. Some people are complaining that his is shorter than Holmgren's street, but whatever, right? It's a street. You just pick one. It's the honor that matters. And it's tough because, he's been there a long time. So for his family, this is a tough situation for the family to be in, especially here at the holidays. And, this is Green Bay that they've grown up in and known to love and whatnot. And to have to uproot them and move somewhere else now, I mean, that's tough on a person, regardless of the situation. But from an organization standpoint, from a business standpoint, because remember, as much as we love people and we want to hang out with our friends and whatever, it's still a business. And from a business decision, this made the most sense. I don't know if you've ever given a 2-week notice and then been forced to work those 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks are the worst 2 weeks of someone's life, because
yes.
You are a dead man walking or dead woman walking. People just look at you and they're angry at you. It's like there is nothing good that would have come out of McCarthy hanging around for 4 more weeks. He already lost the team. The team wasn't supporting him. The team wasn't behind him. And it was really interesting. I was reading an article about the 2010 season when we won the Super Bowl and how McCarthy just kind of galvanized the room and said, we're nobody's underdog. We're going to come into the Patriots and we're going to beat them even without Aaron Rodgers. And they almost did. Right, in that matchup. And then that galvanizing moment from McCarthy drove the rest of the way when Rodgers came back and we made the playoffs and then ended up going 6 straight to win the Super Bowl. That kind of galvanizing moment hasn't been in the Green Bay locker room for a long time. And I think that the biggest thing for me was when they did the post-game press conference and McCarthy said the words around don't ask me. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do tomorrow. I've never been in this situation. At that minute, I knew he was fired when he said those words, because it was like, you don't say that as a coach. You say, we're going to come back in here, we're going to reset, we're going to do fundamentals, and we're going to get back to the basics. And when we get back to the basics, we'll just start picking away one at a time until we finally win a game. That's what an inspiring coach would tell you. A guy who comes in and says, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. Yeah, that pretty much sealed his fate right there, if it wasn't sealed already, in my opinion. But this is a good thing for the Packers. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, people are like, this was I'll use the term dick move is what I saw up on the interwebs. And this is a really great thing for the Packers organization. One, it allows us to maybe experiment with the Peyton Manning concept. If Rodgers wants to call the plays, let him call the plays for 4 weeks. It isn't going to matter because we're not going to be in the playoffs. Maybe there's one chance, but it's a big one. But Rodgers call the plays. Let him call the plays. See what happens. What do you got to lose? Joe Philbin was the architect of the 15-1 season and was there for the Super Bowls and everything. He coached in Miami from 2012 to 2015, so he can be a head coach. He was saddled with some junk in Miami. Wasn't really his fault. He kind of took it on and wasn't given enough time to turn it around. And because it's Miami, they're always just middle of the pack. So you get to basically audition Joe Philbin to see if he's actually head coach material. You can audition to see if he wants the head coaching job to even be considered in the running. So there's just a lot of good football business stuff that comes out of this for the next 4 weeks for the Packers organization. And I think that what we're seeing is that Gutekunst and Murphy specifically, where I'm a little more on Gutekunst's side than I am on Murphy's side. Personally, I think Murphy should have been canned as well after this game because he's as much at fault for keeping Ted and Mike and Dom Capers in the organizations as long as they had. Granted, he's done some really great stuff business-wise, Titletown District, the Legends District that's going to be coming down the road. Good for the organization, maybe not so good for football operations, which is why I'm not a big fan of the whole restructuring that he did this year with everybody reporting to him. Rather him stay on the business side and not on the football side. But at the end of the day, I think this is good for the Packers organization. I think it's good for us to see what we have. And it's good for Mike McCarthy because, A, he can spend the holidays with his family. He can figure out the relocation stuff. He can interview for the coaching jobs that he wants to go interview for. I mean, he's still pretty young. He's probably got a good 10, 15 years of coaching left in him. So I think this was the right move for everybody. It just gives everybody a good, clean break. They had a very nice, complimentary stuff to say about him at the press conference. McCarthy had complimentary stuff to say with whoever he talked to he hasn't done a press conference, but everybody that has called him and repeated on Twitter, McCarthy said he had no ill will against anybody. So I think in the end, you might say that this was un-Packer-like, but I think this is exactly Packer-like because it's a new Packers organization. We have to do things differently than we've done over the last 6 years.
Yeah, almost more of a, I wouldn't say overreaction, but to prove the point that this is a new Packers organization and we're not going to just sit around and wait. I guess what probably rubs some people the wrong way is just the fact that it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that we have to fire a coach. It's embarrassing that we lost to the Cardinals. And if you wait till like that Black Monday or whatever it is at the end of the season when there's like 7 or 8 coaches fired and we're kind of lost in the mix. And right now we're just so in the spotlight. Everybody's like, what happened to your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers now? So I think it's more of an embarrassment on our side as fans. And I think, like you said, McCarthy's going to be fine. I believe he's from the Pittsburgh area, so he might be going to the AFC North. Cleveland, played Steelers twice a year and that kind of good stuff. And it's no doubt that time heals all wounds like it did with Brett Favre, and McCarthy will be in the Packers Hall of Fame.
Oh, absolutely. Guaranteed. And there's no reason why he shouldn't be in there. Exactly.
So, a lot of people are super happy that he's gone, but it's not easy. It's not fun, but it's done. And we, as fans of the Green Bay Packers, will follow along and see what happens. And we've got thoughts and input, and we're just hoping for the best. Right now, like you said, slim chance of the playoffs, and we're going to go over that later. We do have, injuries. All sorts of people are questionable. I even saw somebody, not really related to injuries, but somebody thought, what if Aaron Rodgers' knee is still a little bit messed up? Maybe we should just bench him the rest of the season and put Deshaun Kaiser out there and see what he can do.
Aaron squashed that idea in the press conference post-game. As soon as that question came out, he squashed it just as fast. He's like, hell no, I'm going to play.
What are you people talking about? Yeah, so we may not see Raven Green this week. Rashad Brayland, Kentrell Bryce, Kevin King, Trey Carson, they're all questionable. Balaga, still questionable. Byron Bell, questionable. I know that, it's still early enough in the week that hopefully most of these questionables will be turned around, especially Balaga.
Yeah, I mean, and the big thing on the Falcons side is that they're kind of a shell of the team that we did see in 2016. I mean, they've completely fallen apart. Even though Calvin Ridley, if he has a good game, man, Calvin Ridley is on fire when he's on fire. So it's going to be interesting to see what all happens there on the Falcons side, because Devonta Freeman is still going to be out, I think, one more week. I think he's designated to return like week 15. So we won't have that to deal with from a running back side, since our running defense is kind of the weak spot. And I think that's completely attributable to Jake Ryan not being out there. Right, we haven't had that extra middle linebacker to take care of the run. Plus, we've kind of decimated on the defensive line front. Right, Wilkerson was out the entire season, and Daniels goes down. So a lot of sad stuff happening this year with injuries, which also pertain to it. And then the conditions in this game this week weren't that great either. I mean, there were people sliding all over the place. I mean, Devontae slipped a few times. I mean, that's the stuff that people should be used to playing in. I mean, it must have been really slick out there.
Yeah, it was amazing considering it was just a little bit of snow, and it kind of tapered off at the beginning of the game, but it was slick. It was cold. It was slick. Everybody was bundled up, and, this week should be a lot nicer, but it's still going to be cold. So
I saw one or two passes come off of Aaron's hand that wobbled, and I was like, whoa, what was that?
It was just a messy game. Messy, messy, messy. Shall we check in with listener feedback and see what we heard from the G-Force this week?
Absolutely. Fire away.
All right. First off, want to let you know that this is the number to call after this week's game. Hopefully a victory against the Falcons. Call us at 920-3-PACK-GO or go to PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback.
Hey guys, it's Andre in LA. I'm calling in the middle of my walk. I love listening to you guys' podcast on my walk. But I wanted to talk about not necessarily the game we lost, but the fact that they finally moved on from Mike McCarthy. I'm interested to see what actually happens with the team. It's a lot of changes that need to be made. We're probably going to lose Cobb. Hopefully Geronimo Ellison comes in next year healthy. We just got to make some decisions, some tough decisions. Do we move on from Cosby? Because, ultimately he did miss the field goal. He's had a rough year, so I'm just curious. This time I don't really have that much to say. I'm just curious to see what your thoughts on where do we go from here, because I don't even have an idea who the next coach should be. But maybe get rid of the entire training staff. But a lot of change needs to be made. I think we just need to overhaul the whole team. Although I'm starting to like a lot what I see in the young defenders, the young defense, Martinez, Pickle. A lot of good things, but we may have to move on from Clay Matthews as well. Love the podcast. Go Pack Go. Green and gold till I'm dead and cold. Andre in LA.
Andre, great to hear from you as always. And this is an interesting time to be in, because remember, Gutekunst's doing his magic in his first draft. We have 2 first-round draft picks, and if the stock keeps falling the way it's falling right now, I mean, we'll have a pretty decent first round draft packs. So we could really stock up on that side. Yeah, the big questions I think going into the offseason, of course, are Cobb and Matthews. Are those contracts being up and those being the 2 top cap hits that we have? The big question, of course, also with Jimmy Graham. He's got his option on his contract, and if we get rid of him before that option comes due, then we're not going to be saddled with that hit on the cap with his contract next year. So there's a lot to think about going into this offseason, and I'm sure Gutekunst is hoping to move to that as quickly as possible. I'm pretty sure they have coaches in mind that they're interested in. They're going to do the things that they need to do to make that happen. I bet you by Black Monday, maybe day after, they announce the new coach 2 days after the season's over.
And then we can get to work right away.
Right away. Absolutely.
Yeah, Andre, again, thanks again for your Patreon support, your voicemails all season long, as well as listening to us while you're out on walks. That's multitasking right there. The big question is, Crosby, do we move on?
I don't think this was a Crosby issue on this one field goal. I mean, he made the other ones in the game. This is a long field goal. The wind is howling. Ground is slippery. I mean, this is just, weather conditions are weather conditions. Yes, we got to make the game-winning ones when they show up, but I wouldn't say this is a Crosby issue. I mean, yeah, he had one bad game this year. He was money the next week. Helped us win the game in San Francisco. So this is This is not a Crosby thing. I would not get rid of Crosby next year. Just some fundamentals. It's a new punter this year, so Jake Scott, he's been the punter all year, so he's also the holder. So that's new for Crosby, trying to get used to that. So I think a little bit more work during the offseason. I think those two will figure it out and be back on par to make everything that comes their way.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one, Troy. I do think we do need to keep Crosby because even though he wasn't perfect this season, he was nowhere near as choppy as a few years ago when we were really wondering what was going on. And he will be probably just fine next year. And besides, if we did get rid of him, where are we going to find somebody as good as him for a long time?
And what is Aaron going to do without his buddy?
That's true. I mean, it's bad enough that we're still getting over the whole Jordy Nelson thing.
Right.
So, anyway, checking back in with the G-Force.
Hi, Wayne, Troy, Art from Texas. Well, calling to see what, I don't know, see y'all can help me out. I don't know, pinpointing what happened. My brother and I have different views. I think he might be right. I don't see what I think the troubles that the Pack had was because, not having Cobb, not having Allison, it's tough to get the offense going again. The defense, as far as the defensive backs who are not very experienced, although they were, clicking at, they've been clicking the past couple of games. But I don't know. I think if McCarthy had a healthy squad, I think they'd be in better position right now. But I don't know. Maybe it is a play calling. My brother says that McCarthy needed to go because he's not adapting to the new modern football as far as offensive schemes and defensive schemes, offensive schemes and stuff like that. I don't know. Also, what do you guys think of the way he was let go? I don't know. Maybe they could have done it in a more respectful way. But, can you ever fire anybody respectfully? I guess, I don't know. I don't know. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are. And go Pack, go green and gold till I'm dead and cold.
That is right, Art. Go Pack, go and green and gold till dead and cold. Again, thank you so much for your calls this season. And, of course, the season is not over. Even if we don't make the playoffs, there's still a lot of football left and fun to be had. And, yeah, I don't know if I'd say that McCarthy isn't modern. His play calling with the team may have gotten stale. I think he'll be fine elsewhere, but I think he was let go as respectfully as you could let somebody go when you fire them. Don't you think, Troy?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Band-Aid concept. I mean, let's say they were planning on getting rid of him, and now it's 4 weeks later, and now they finally get rid of him. I mean, do you want to be that kind of guy that's like, I know I'm going to get fired, but I got to still come into work and do what I got to do, and how do you get excited for that? So I think the way they did it was probably better. You just rip the Band-Aid off and call it quits because it is what it is. And there wasn't anything good that was coming out of McCarthy sticking around for 4 more weeks.
True. And the defensive backs have been inexperienced, and we have had a lot of injuries, but I'm sure that was all taken into account. And I guess it's just time for a new direction. So we'll see how it all comes together.
Strength and conditioning coach, and special teams coach in the offseason. If there's 2 coaches that a new head coach needs to replace, it's those 2 positions because I'm tired of all the injuries. It's just not happening for me anymore. I'm done.
I am also totally done with the injuries. And, yeah, special teams, that does need to change. But I don't know if there's any way to avoid the injuries. It just seems to happen. I mean, these are professional athletes. They're pretty dang strengthened and buffed out, and something still just goes wrong for us as well as with the Falcons and some other teams. I am tired of them, though. It would be certainly nice if at least Aaron Rodgers and the offensive line could be healthy for a whole season.
Well, you remember back in the day when we said, hey, let's try to make the game safer so that people won't be getting injured as much. I think the injuries are up, to be quite honest, than what they used to be back in the day. I mean, I don't remember this many injuries being around in the 90s when Favre was playing, or people just decided to play through them more, and maybe that's just it. Maybe by making the game safer, they got to report more stuff and hold people out more often. maybe that's why the injuries seem like they're up higher. But for some reason, it feels like there's just more injuries in the last 5 years than there have been in most of the time watching football growing up.
Yeah, there's definitely a slew of them. And like we've mentioned in the past, some of it also due to not getting enough playing time in the preseason and camp being shortened. And there's just not enough workouts. I mean, Vince Lombardi, greatest coach of all time, but the way he had the team practice would probably not be allowed by the union today. But if it were, we'd probably have a much stronger, focused team. But we got to play within the confines of what's given to us. And yeah, if there's a way that we can do something to not get as injured, I am all for it, Troy. Sign me up. Let's check in and see what happened with our Monday Twitter poll that we also post in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community at packerscommunity.com. And basically, the easy peasy one. Now that Mike McCarthy has been fired, who should be the next head coach of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers? And just to kind of plant the seeds, lay the groundwork, I threw out the 3 names that we kind of talked about a couple of weeks ago of Josh McDaniels, Jay Gruden, and John Gruden, and opening up a can of worms by saying, please @reply or add your own options. And there was lots. Most of these names I'm not even familiar with. We got selections votes for Urban Meyer, Steve Mariucci, Lincoln Riley, Bruce Arians was a popular one, Stephen Avery, Nick Saban, Matt LaFleur, Jim Harbaugh. There was even Photoshop work on Jim Harbaugh with his khakis and wearing green. Now, I know that combination goes together well, but wow. How about Joe Lombardi, Troy?
Interesting.
And, of course, Joe Philbin, Zach Taylor, Brett Favre, Pat Fitzgerald, Eric Bieniemy, forgive me for mispronunciations, and John D. Filippo. And then Brett Connor in the UK had a very popular write-in vote for Sir Troy Heinritz, saying, my vote is for Troy. He always makes good points, and he knows what he's talking about. And, of course, he's a Packers fan through and through.
Well, I appreciate the vote of confidence, but I don't know a damn thing about football. I know a great deal about watching football, but I don't know a damn thing about scripting plays and all that fun stuff.
But I like how it really snowballed. You got my vote. As soon as I saw Brett add that one to the list, I'm like, I've been kind of talking about, Josh McDaniels, but I don't know. Let's vote for Troy Heinritz. Let's see what happens.
Did I end up beating Josh McDaniels in the poll, or did Josh still win?
I think in the Facebook side, in the Packers community group, you did win. On the Twitter side,
really?
I believe so. On the Twitter side, as of the time of this recording, on the Twitter side, that one didn't take off. So we didn't get that one added, but Urban Meyer was added and Steve Mariucci and things like that. So 2 totally different worlds between Facebook and Twitter.
I do like the Mooch coming back in because he's been in the Packers organization before. So that's an interesting, fun one to throw out there. But if we're being realistic, I'm still on the line. Obviously Josh McDaniels is the big choice, right? That's the hot one to grab. But if we had to look other places, Zach Taylor and John DeFilippo, that's where I would be kind of probably putting my money at this point. I'm not sure college level ranks is probably where we'd be looking, but I think we're looking at offensive coordinators that are got the new mindset, those up and coming rookie youngsters.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting. And again, I'm not familiar with 5 or 6 of these guys. I don't know if they're all from college, and that's because I don't watch college ball, that I don't really know them. But and Bruce Arians was a fairly popular choice, former head coach of the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
And I know
good potential there.
And somebody said, well, wasn't he fired by the Cardinals? And then other people said, well, wasn't Josh McDaniels already a head coach of the Broncos and failed there? Yeah. Who did he have for his quarterback at the Broncos?
Exactly.
It was not John Elway. It was not Peyton Manning. It was 3 other guys during that season, none of which are probably still playing football. He has not been a head coach of a team that has Aaron Rodgers.
True.
Let's see some other comments about the poll and the choices. Dave Vincent said, If Brett Favre were hired as our head coach, it would be must-see TV every game day, and ticket values would skyrocket. I am serious. He can do it.
Well, he'd probably run out onto the field with a headset, forgetting that it's not a helmet.
That would add to the fun, and Aaron Peterson agrees. He says the only answer is Brett Favre.
Maybe a quarterback's coach. Maybe an offensive coordinator, but not a head coach.
Backup quarterback?
We went down that road in 2008. We know how that turned out.
Oh, that's true. Stephen V is wondering if there may be a qualified female coaching candidate out there that hasn't been brought up yet.
Stephen V, good job, sir. Good job. This is something that is very interesting. I would love to see if that is the case.
Yeah, I just haven't heard anybody brought up.
Well, I mean, think about if that is out there as a possibility. Like, talk about a statement. You know, all the people, that's not the Packer way. You know, to fire McCarthy. Well, how about hiring a female? But that would put Green Bay on the map for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And Peter Allison says, I hope we can find a Nagy or McVay if we go for a young coach. Should we go for an old coach, I can't see why Arians wouldn't be worth a shot. He worked wonders in Arizona with Carson Palmer and is considered somewhat of a quarterback guru.
Because remember, Aaron Rodgers does like to be coached. That's what he said.
Oh.
That's what he said at his locker after the press conferences on Monday. He's like, I want to be coached. I mean, everybody wants to be coached. Everybody wants to get better. That's what he said. Maybe he just didn't want to get coached by McCarthy, but he wants to be coached.
Okay. Time will tell. I can't wait to find out.
If you notice during that that post press conference Monday at Aaron's locker or whatever, he talked a lot about Mike McCarthy and the time they spend together and their conversations about life and then hanging out at each other's houses, talking about life. And they talked about just being people. There's a lot of life going on, but there wasn't a lot of football conversations.
That's interesting that you picked up on that. The press conference that somebody also posted, I think it was Granny Cheese, shared in the Packers community on Facebook. The press conference with Gutekunst and Murphy was interesting as well. I was not squeamish. I couldn't bring myself to watch the Mike McCarthy one. It just seemed too hard to watch for me.
The post-game one, or
both of them?
Oh, I didn't know there was another I missed the Mark McCarthy one.
Well, it may not have been an actual press conference. It was like comments from an interview he might have done somewhere. But even the post-game press conference, I'm like, even before he was fired, I'm like, I can't watch. After that game, I don't need to really hear from anybody for a little bit.
I mean, and for the people that are like, Rodgers is a prima donna and Rodgers got McCarthy, I don't think that's the case at all.
No.
I mean, people might think I'm crazy for saying that, but at the end of the day, you listen to everything that Rodgers has said from the podium. Now, granted, Rodgers calling out that the offense sucked in the Buffalo game, basically. I mean, Holmgren made a comment about that and said that he would never have allowed that to happen. And I think that's part of the issue here is that, why McCarthy is not the coach anymore is because McCarthy lost the ability to basically put people in their place. I mean, if he's the coach and Aaron calls him out like that, then if I'm the coach, I bench Aaron the next week. I don't care if he's, football Jesus or whatever. You sit down, you show some respect, and we play as a team. And the fact that he's not able to do that and control Aaron or whatever it is, that's why he's not the coach anymore. You need someone that can basically go in there and say, I am the boss, sit down and listen.
And that is a huge consideration that any of the applicants for the job of head coach need to have in the back of their mind and have a good answer for when they're asked about what if.
Right, exactly.
Well, with that, let's check in and see what came by email, and then we'll check in with the Facebook comments as well.
Well, Steven is back this week, and he is angry coming from Palos Park, Illinois. I was expecting the coaching firing to come, but I had predicted it at the end of the season within the first 24 hours after the season would end. Mike leaves with a record of 125, 77, and 2, which I can't believe he had 2 ties. Who knew? I know you will not believe it, but I am really certain that Aaron Rodgers was trying to get his head coach fired, and now he has been fired. So I guess let's see how he will play for the final 4 games of the season with Philbin as the interim head coach. Now let's fire all the players and staff and begin anew in the new season.
Wait a minute. What, Stephen?
He said sack everybody because the fact that we lost to the Arizona Cardinals is no excuse why the Packers should have lost to the Cardinals. It's appalling.
Well, there certainly is no excuse. There is no excuse, but we can't fire everybody. We don't want to become an expansion team all of a sudden.
Yeah. Now, remember, this is our 100th season also. This was the big campaign year, 100th season. So it's been a kind of a downer, and there's 4 games left, and half are at home and half are on the road. So what can we expect in the final 4 games for the Packers with their interim head coach?
Victories.
I would say this. A road victory in this season, and I would call this season a success. If we could just get one road victory this year, I think that'll at least give us momentum going into next season.
The Jets better look out.
Watch out, New York. Because if we lose to New York, oh, man. Interesting that on Facebook Sunday, the first thing I had seen, a picture of Wayne Henderson with his breakfast, which also interesting liquid butter, but I have never seen butter like that before. Anyway, I can't wait to see how you two will react on the podcast to the game and the news, of course. Go Pack Go, Stephen in Illinois.
Thank you very much for the email, Stephen. Yeah, there's more news than anything else to talk about. But there's a big game coming up this Sunday, a team that we can hopefully finally get the better of, and because they're kind of in a downward spiral as well. But thank you very much, Stephen. Also got an email from Caleb Fisher, Lorna LaPointe, and Mary Herkmans, to be exact, from Green Bay, Wisconsin. We wanted to say that our Packers season is so disappointing this season, and unfortunately we have also lost Coach McCarthy, but I think it's a great move for this to happen. Although we've lost the game, we've tried everything to win, but until we do win, we will never stop cheering for our Green Bay Packers. Go Pack Go, bleed green and gold till dead and cold. Caleb Fisher and company say Go Pack Go. And yeah, and the fact that it's the 100th season, I don't know if we put too much pressure on ourselves in addition to everything else that went awry. I mean, I've got this cool jacket. I've got a cool new 100 Seasons shirt. Everybody else has some great 100 Seasons swag. And, oh, well, the 101 is the one that counts.
Yeah, and I think the big thing there with the 100th season, too, is that we're still feeling what we're calling the Ted Thompson hangover. I think this is the last batch of group of people that is the draft and develop mentality versus the free agency mentality. I think we can have a lot more fun going forward because we can clean out some of that cruft and actually start to build and strengthen not only just the first layer of the positions, but also second and third as well to have quality backups.
Exactly. And as far as the Facebook community group at PackersCommunity.com, most of the comments this week were in the poll stream about all of the coaching situations, but there are a lot of other comments about the Packers coaching situation as it is right now. Aaron Peterson posted an article explaining why just getting a different coach isn't going to miraculously bring us success, so check that article out. Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst's press conference video is linked in there as well from Granny Cheese, and of course, memes. There's also more. It's all at PackersCommunity.com.
Well, retired Packers jersey number 24 belonged to Willie Wood, who would have surely been an amazing player for almost any Packers head coach, maybe a coach himself. Who knows? But Bryant is a $24 monthly supporter today, and he is supporting the Packers Fan Podcast over at PackersFanPodcast.com/support. Thank you so much, Bryant, for your contribution.
And also thanks going out to the Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics. They have their own Facebook group, and they continue to support the team no matter what we're going through, and supporting the podcast at the $12 a month Aaron Rodgers support level. So thank you for that. And we do have their special Go Pack Go at the end of the episode. And spoiler, Go Pack Go.
Supporting the podcast at the Brett Favre $4 monthly level, potentially your new Packers coach. Maybe not. But Packers Fan Podcast supporter Andre. Also the $4 Packers pledge from lifelong Packer backer Randy Westgame of Wausau and Jeff Summerfield, all showing up at the $4 level. Thanks so much, guys, for never giving up.
And we've got a brand new supporter at the Brett Favre $4 a month level, Scott Clark from the Gaming Outsider podcast. Thank you very much, Scott, for joining aboard just yesterday. Happy to have you as part of the team. Go Pack Go. Also at the Curly Lambeau $1 a month supporting level, Velvet Eau Claire, Aaron Peterson at the Hollywood Outsider, and Hank Davis, the future voice of NFL films, as Dallin Christensen would say. He is from the TPE network of podcasts.
You too can make the podcast even better. Again, PackersFanPodcast.com/support. Check out all the different levels, including that $92 option to go to a Packer game next season. So if you want in on that action, make sure you start your contribution here in January so you get the full 6 months in before the game shows up. So don't know who we're playing yet, but $92 will get you a ticket to a game next year. That's PackersFanPodcast.com/support. Do it today and be just like Aaron, Hank, the Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics, Andre, Scotty, Bryant, Randy, Jeff, and Velvet. Awesome to have all of you on board, and you guys will play for our team any day of the week.
Amen to that, and go Pack Go.
Well, when it comes to the NFC North, it wasn't a super stellar week for the North Division. For the Lions specifically, Damon Harrison was a stud on defense, as was Ashawn Robinson. The Detroit defense definitely won the trench war in this game. But on the other side of the ball, the interior of their O-line is still a hot mess, and Stafford is lucky he didn't have 3 picks in this game instead of just 1. The Lions will finish out the next 4 weeks against the Cardinals, the Bills, the Vikings, and of course, your Green Bay Packers at home.
Can't wait. That last game of the year is going to be epic.
Now, in Bear Country, it was the Tyree Cohen show against the Giants this week. Akeem Hicks looks to be back on track, and Mack was back, but only 1 sack in this particular contest. The key here was another backup quarterback outing with a pass rush that was relentless from the Giants. Can we say that the collapse of the Bears just started this week?
Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and say it. That'd be awesome.
Well, the Bears do play the Rams, us, who we did beat the Bears already once, the Niners, and the Vikings. So, yes, there is a possibility the Bears could lose every game.
That'd be too bad.
The Vikings, on the other hand, had the Patriots this week, and surprisingly, the Pats show up right on schedule, just like they should, although Brady did only average 4.4 yards down the field in this contest. Most of the passes looked like they were a short dump out or a screen, something like the Packers used to do. Cousins was actually 0-6 on deep balls down the field as the O-line continues to struggle in Minnesota, and Thielen was double covered most of the day and then didn't even do anything when he wasn't. The defense did slow Brady down, though, but just couldn't get home because of the quick passes that he was dumping out there. So something to look at there against the Vikings when we look at them in the coming seasons, or depending on how they finish out the season here, because the Vikings have the Seahawks, the Dolphins, who are still middle of the pack fighting for a playoff spot, the Lions, and the Bears. So you're saying, Troy, how do we get into the playoffs? How is it still possible with a 4-7-1 record that the playoffs are still possible to happen? Well, here's how it happens. The Packers find some backbone. They go out there with their fundamentals, and they win the last 4 games. And then the Bears lose out, and the Vikings lose every game except the one that they have to beat the Bears. And we win the NFC North.
Oh.
Ba-boom!
Bob's your uncle.
Now, the problem is week 16, because the Vikings have to play the Lions, and the Bears have to play the 49ers. So,
hey,
little small wrinkle there in the armor.
Anything could happen. Now, that last game of the year where you said the Vikings actually need to beat the Bears, would a tie suffice to help us out? If the Vikings,
I didn't actually look to see if that would be enough to get the Bears to be lower than us. I don't think so. I think that would end. Well, you know what? If they would tie that game, then we would be tied with the Bears for the lead, and we would still win the North because we would have beaten them twice.
And the Vikings would have the shame of having 2 ties in one season against the North.
Right, which is just as good as a loss.
So there you go.
Yeah, so as long as Vikings lose 3 and Bears lose 4 and we win 4, we win the North, if you can believe it, at 8-7-1.
Stranger things have happened.
Which is a winning record. So
yeah.
Take that for what it's worth.
Hey.
If we could just win 4 games and finish with a winning record, I think that would be really great right now.
That would be great. Look on the bright side. You're a cup half full kind of guy, right, Troy?
Well, I learned from Wayne Henderson that, so what you're saying is there's still a chance.
I know. As soon as the game was over, and especially after Monday night was over, okay, let's open up that New York Times playoff calculator, and hey, look, it could happen.
Yeah, the chance of getting the number 6 wild card position, I think that is long done because the Cowboys winning on Thursday night kind of really threw that wrinkle into the mix there.
Stupid Cowboys.
Couple other things didn't happen. I think our best path to the playoffs now is win the North, surprisingly.
It just sounds bonkers to even say it, but hey, go Pack, go Troy, go Pack,
Stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened.
I'm going to make a TV show called that.
That's a great idea. All right. Well, what do we need to do to beat the Falcons this weekend? As I mentioned already, a healthy Calvin Ridley is a beast, so make sure he's not 100%. Shut him down, and you shut down the Falcons pretty much. Our O-line needs to keep a spy basically on Grady Jarrett. This guy is getting home a lot for the Falcons, so keep an eye on Grady Jarrett during the course of this game. As long as we're picking him up on the blitz, we should be fine. And the big thing that I've noticed from the Falcons this year is that Matt Ryan is completely falling apart under pressure. So if we can get in there and really get in his craw this week, the pass rush should really help in a big way in making sure we disrupt the flow of the game. And then at the end, just win. It'd be nice to see a W at home.
It's been a little while. And Matt Ryan falling apart under pressure? Isn't he supposed to be Matty Ice?
That's what we heard back in 2016, but that was 2016.
Sounds so long ago, back when the Packers and Falcons were vying for the top spot.
Yes.
Oh well.
If you call it the top spot, I mean you had to run the table to get there, but
hey, this season is what it is. Let's check in and see what the official Green Bay Packers have in their dope sheet for Week 14 as we wait for the Falcons to come to Lambeau Field. The 4-7-1 Green Bay Packers are staying home at Lambeau Field to host the 4-8. That's an even worse record. Atlanta Falcons.
You know what's sad is that every game that we play like this season so far, like the team we play has a record that's just worse than ours, so that when we lose, it stings even more because they ladder us in the standings.
Good point. Thanks for that, Troy. Green Bay is 10-4 at home against Atlanta during the regular season, and the Packers have won 3 of the last 5 regular season games with the Falcons. Of course, let's not talk about the recent playoff matchups. That's different. Since 2002, Green Bay is 11-5 against NFC South teams at home during the regular season, including wins in 7 of the last 8 games, if you believe ProFootballReference.com. And here's the ultimate non-stat stat. The Packers' .688 winning percentage at home against the NFC South teams since 2002 is number 1 in the NFC and number 5 in the NFL over that span. And so what?
Yeah, isn't that the same that as Tampa Bay?
Yeah, but it was in there. It's in the dope sheet, so I'm like, hey, that's interesting.
You remember when Tampa Bay was in the NFC Central?
Yes. And even though it's a division game, man, that travel all the way down to Tampa. I don't know.
And always playing in the humidity of the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, it's like this just isn't right. And that alone, I think, was the catalyst for let's realign the league. Let's bring in the Houston Texans. We'll have an even number of teams in all the divisions. Hey, there's an idea. And yeah, it's been pretty good since. Notable connections in the dope sheet. Packers linebacker Clay Matthews is, of course, the older cousin of Falcons tackle Jake Matthews. And Green Bay's defense pass game coordinator Joe Witt Jr. was Atlanta's assistant defensive back coach back in 2007. And then they list another 50 or 60 connections. Check out that entire dope sheet for all those connections and other interesting facts at PackersFanPodcast.com/171.
Well, if somebody had challenged the Larry Fitzgerald catch and held him on 3rd and 23, then I probably would have been pretty darn close on my score predictions because I said Cardinals 10, Packers 17. You said 13-31, so I don't know what you were smoking last week. Probably just hangover from all the butter.
Well, I was thinking the Cardinals. This is the time that we bounce back and just open up a can, but maybe this week. So you were definitely closer.
All right. Well, then I'll pick first. I say Packers need a win coming, the whole firing, Joe Philbin taking over. So we're going to squeak it out. Packers 21, Falcons 20.
It's a win. It's a 1-point victory. I'm pretty close with you there, Troy. I'm going to say Falcons 21 and Packers 24.
Ooh, Mason Crosby field goal at the buzzer
for
to redeem
the victory.
Himself.
Exactly. Whatever it takes. A win is a win. I would like to see us win by a lot more, but hey, if we win by 3 or if we win by 1, that's a win.
I just like one game this year where it's like we don't have to scramble in that 2-minute drill at the end of the game to try to win it.
That we had that one game against the mighty Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo Bills.
Which, just saying the name of that team sounds dorky, in my opinion.
Well, it's cold in Buffalo, and it's going to be cold in Green Bay, Wisconsin. 25 degrees at kickoff, so it is bundle up. If you're going to this game, it is going to be a chilly one because it'll just drop from there.
But I heard it's supposed to be sunny, so that will be nice.
I guess so.
But it's still cold.
It's still cold.
And there might be shade.
Anything below 35 is cold.
And no doubt. Go Pack, go, right. Troy.
Go Pack, go Wayne. That'll do it for this week in particular. The Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. If you want us to be on your show, I was actually on Love Sport Radio in the UK, 5:58 a.m. this past Sunday, as well as on the Fifth Down podcast from the UK. You can check that out and hear me talking about all the stuff that happened before the game, but it was a lot of fun being on there. So if you want us to be on your show, hit us up at media@PackersFanPodcast.com. And
I heard the Fifth Down podcast. Well done on that one, Sir Troy. All season long, follow us on Twitter. Be ready for the Monday Twitter polls, as well as other stuff, live tweeting during the game and stuff. Follow us at PackersFanPod. I've got a personal account, too, if you want to follow that just for fun. I'm at Wayne Henderson. And Doctor Who only has one more episode before the Christmas break and then one episode on New Year's Day. And we're covering it all on our Don't Blink podcast at don'tblinkpodcast.com.
And I am at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. I do a show called The Blacklist Exposed. The Blacklist returns January 3rd and 4th. That's right, a 2-night event here. Just as football ends, The Blacklist begins. I do that with superfan $1 patron Aaron Peterson. So make sure you check that out. We were actually just part of a TV special called Behind the Blacklist Season 6. They just wrapped up editing and putting the finishing touches on that, so that should be coming to a country near you. So whatever channel the Blacklist airs on, you can go ahead and check out Behind the Blacklist Season 6 fairly soon here before the new year.
It's going to be huge. It's going to be awesome. And right after the regular season ends, that other football league kicks up. What is the American Alliance of Football? I'm not sure, but it's football. I'm not podcasting about it or anything. But we do want to have your feedback about the NFL, specifically the Green Bay Packers. So go to PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback right after the game and let your voice be heard and keep that Packers chatter going. And thank you for listening to this week's episode of your Packers Fan Podcast.
Be sure to subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and a few other places as well, so you do not miss a single episode. Make sure you're having the conversations in PackersCommunity.com with all of your fellow Packers friends, like our good friends from the Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics who have this message to say.
This is Dawn down here in Texas, a.k.a. Granny Cheese, and we have something to say.
Hi, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
Hi, I'm Lisa Montgomery, proud mom of number 88, Ty Montgomery, and we want to say,
Go Pack, go!